This is Brandon Sanderson's Elantris, 615 pages with 64 chapters. Really, this is his first novel. So, Brando Sando, it's his first book. And I did this completely backwards. I read a whole bunch of Brandon Sanderson novels and then read this one. So, that kind of turned it on its head for me. I probably should have gone the opposite direction, but it is what it is. So, a medieval fantasy book with magic, and it's highly focused on religion. It's got all of the style, story, themes of curiosity, magic, culture, but it just didn't seem to be as sharp as a normal Brandon Sanderson novel. And it's his first one, so it makes sense. But anyways, I did enjoy it, but I don't recommend it. It was just a little bit too long for me. The mystery was good, the story was good, the action was good, but there were parts where I just didn't it just didn't click with me. So for that reason I don't recommend it, but I will still talk about it and it is an enjoyable read. So the three main characters, Raoden, he is engaged and he's the prince of the kingdom outside of Elantris, and he gets sick, and so his family throws him into Elantris, shuts the gates, and then tells everybody publicly that he died. So that's where he's at. Serene is engaged to Raoden, and she is, in a kingdom across the sea. She sails to visit him and finds out he's dead. So she's a widow, but according to the laws, she is now officially married, even though he died. Some kind of marriage contract. Anyways, she's just trying to do her best in the kingdom. She doesn't have the person that she was designated to marry, and she's just kind of trying to find her way. So Herathrin is the high priest who shows up in the city looking to convert the entire city. I don't know if it's 3 or 6 months, I can't remember, but his goal is to convert them before his kingdom shows up to conquer them. So he's given a deadline by his spiritual leader and is like, hey, get this done. And he's like, oh yeah, piece of cake. I did this somewhere else, so no problem. Yeah, so all those three main characters, they cross paths and the story unfolds. The mystery is that Elantris is kind of like a fallen city. It used to be bright and shiny. It used to even glow in the dark. It had its own shimmer and light. And now, after this event, it was like an earthquake or something. People, instead of becoming Elantians, I don't know, they become sick. They have these splotchy things on their skin and they can't practice magic or do any of the cool stuff that previously happened before. So, they didn't age before and they don't really age now, even after the sickness, after the city fell, but they also feel pain. Any minor pain or injury, it's constantly felt, it's constantly there. They don't need to eat. Their heartbeat has stopped, so they're kind of in like a pseudo, like not really alive, not really dead thing. And it's almost kind of like purgatory. But this book has a very religious focus. It focuses on the religions in each kingdom and how they interact and the way they live. But the kingdom that this focuses on, the king is a businessman, a merchant, and so he kind of has like merchant rules. Like his barons are kind of in charge. It's like a feudal system, and his son is the one that got thrown in, sick and thrown in. So the three main characters, they, struggle and cross paths and go against each other, all that good stuff. But really, the mystery is what happened to Elantris and can it be fixed? Can it be remedied? So, yeah, I really liked that, in Elantris there were churches for other religions. Elantris was almost like, they could practice magic. They were treated as gods and their own religion. So, I mean, this is a fantasy book, but it's funny that, they tolerated other religions, right? Like, what is a religion when you see gods walking among you that can, practice magic and give you miracles like that? It just was an interesting concept and it was an enjoyable part of the story. The different kingdoms were really cool. There's a naval one across the sea where Serene, the main character, comes from. There's, the son and the businessman father. There's that one. And then there's the eastern one that's trying to conquer all through their religion. So that was kind of neat. The father-son dynamic was interesting and helped move the story along in that, the prince who became ill was loved by the populace. He was very popular and well liked, whereas the father mistreated the populace and only cared about the rich barons. So it was kind of a interesting dynamic there. And I really liked Serene. She was my favorite character. I rooted for all three of them at different points, but the one I liked the most was Serene. She was in a man's world. She was trying to do things that weren't quote unquote womanly, sewing and painting and stuff. These were like, these are the only activities as a woman you can practice. So this was very interesting in that she did fencing, right? It's a combat arts and tried to teach the women of the court fencing. So that was a really cool, interesting take. She shows up with the barons and, tries to start a revolution, and it's just like, she's just going at it. And it was just a lot of fun. It was great to see and read her parts. So there wasn't much that I disliked. It just wasn't as sharp as, on the rest of Brandon Sanderson's novels. It didn't reel me in quite as deeply as some of the others. I wasn't as invested. I feel like there maybe was like 75 pages that could have gotten chopped out in the middle, just to get to the resolution maybe a little quicker, but I don't know, that's just an opinion. So there were lots of really good quotes. Let me do them real fast here. The first one is about hunger and pain. You talk about hunger and pain as if they are forces which can't be resisted. Anything is acceptable as long as the hunger made you do it. Remove your comforts and we become animals. So they didn't need to eat, but they still, when people got sent into the city, would bring offering baskets. And so the people inside the city would, pounce on the newcomers and take their offering baskets and wolf down the food. But then, of course, they'd still be hungry, even though they didn't need to eat. So it was a neat concept in that, the desire was there, but really it wasn't a need. It was just a desire. So let's see here. This one is extravagance. So they visit a ball. Serena's visiting a ball, and isn't that how it always is, though? Those who can least afford extravagance seem to be the ones most determined to spend what they have left. That stood out to me. The person hosting the ball is being supported by someone else. So, it's kind of like, sponsored here, I'm throwing all this money around, I'm super rich, when really it's like, for another purpose. So that was kind of cool. Let's see. Worries. Thank you, Ash. This is Serene, the main character. Thank you for enduring the lamentations of a silly girl. Ash, we can be strong in the face of kings and priests, my lady, Ash replied, but to live is to have worries and uncertainties. Keep them inside and they will destroy you for certain. Leaving behind a person who's so callous that emotion can find no root in his heart. Ash is like her personal assistant. There's like a Scion can float around and like talk to people, and they live for like 1,000 years. So it's almost like a cool personal assistant floating ball thing. But she had some intimate conversations there and got some really good advice. So that was neat. This last one is about joy. She had proven to the people that no matter how much their hunger hurt, simply feeding their bellies wasn't enough. Joy was more than just an absence of discomfort. Boom. That one hit home, right? When you see the stars, there's the light in between. You also see the light in between. There's the good and the bad, disappointment, happiness. Can you have one without the other? All that duality, yin yang stuff. It was just really cool. And this book was a great read, but I don't really recommend it just because some of the other Brandon Sanderson novels are just so much more lights out. But this is his first one, so it was definitely his style, and it was a good book. So remember to buy your books used.